Touchdown, Pittsburgh!
Touchdown, Washington!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Steelskins Show, a show hosted by one diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fan and one diehard Washington Redskins fan, from game recaps, game previews, news headlines, analysis, opinions, and all kinds of other riveting stuff. We have got you covered on all things Pittsburgh Steelers and Washington Redskins. My name is Patrick, and I am the voice of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And I'm Chris. I'm the voice of the Washington Redskins.
Yeah. Chris, good to see you, man.
You too.
Always good to see you here. I feel like it's been a while. Did we do one last week? I don't remember. I can't remember anymore.
No, we did one the week before.
That's right. You're right. Ladies and gentlemen, 2 words for you: mock draft. Tonight's the big night, ladies and gentlemen, the night you've all been waiting for. Tonight is the night, the 2017 Steelskins Show Mock Draft 1.0, because we only do one mock draft. We don't do 395,000 mock drafts, but tonight is our official big-time mock draft. However, though, Chris, our mock draft comes with a twist. We are not going to do your traditional sit down and just do our dream mock draft, because Chris and I talked a lot about this leading up to the draft. We felt like that was a little unfair, because it's so easy for you and I to just sit down here and give you our perfect draft and our dream world, but it just never really happens like that. So what Chris and I have decided to do this year for our mock draft, ladies and gentlemen, there's a great website. If you're a big-time football fan, you probably already know about it. If you're not, we'll explain it to you. We are going to be using a website tonight called FanSpeak. It is a computer-simulated mock draft. It's going to make things a lot more interesting. For those of you that may not know what FanSpeak is, you go on there, you select your team, you select how many rounds you want to draft, and basically it's a computer-simulated draft. And it's a really, really cool website. Who's the guy who invented it, you said?
I think his last name's Stroop.
Stroop. Well, whoever he is, he's a brilliant guy. It's a great website, because what it does is it continually updates itself with all these mock drafts. So it pulls from, say, NFL's mock drafts. It pulls from Bleacher Report, Fox Sports, CBS.
Yeah, they collate the big boards.
Right.
So, yeah, as you're drafting, you're constantly looking at as you run the simulator, you get to your thing, and it's the ultimate. It is the ultimate test to see whether you. Let's say you choose, FanSpeak's draft board.
Yes.
And, we all talk about, well, do you take best player available or do you go for need? And it is so hard to stay. I mean, you could say, okay, I'm going to run this draft all the way through, and it's going to be best player available on that board. And I don't think
until you see what you got.
Until 6 spots down, you say, you know what? I've always liked that dude. I'm going to take him.
Exactly. And you really, you really get a feel with FanSpeak what it must be like for teams in a lot of these situations.
To some degree, yeah. It gives you sort of this this idea that, oh man, do I punch the button?
Yeah,
this
we
guy?
don't need this guy, but
he's there.
Yeah. It's really, really cool, and it's not a Steelskins Show exclusive. You guys can do it. It's fanspeak.com. Go select your team.
And there is a premium side to it.
Yes,
that will allow you to trade. You can initiate trades.
Yeah,
which sort of gives it an even different feel to it.
It gives you power. You feel the power. But yeah, it really, really is a cool site. And Chris and I, we were just going to do the standard, let's just do a mock draft. I'll give you my dream draft, who I want in round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. But we decided to make it a little more interesting because, hey, let's just say there is a guy we do dream of. FanSpeak steals him. He goes off the board.
Right,
so,
and that's the thing. When you sit down, and the bad thing about doing a mock draft by yourself is you end up getting 7 guys who you're never going to get.
Exactly. That's exactly
because I love there's a couple of players that I love, but the chances of being there at 17 just aren't there.
Yeah,
but if I'm going to sit down and put pencil to paper, I'm like, oh yeah, I would love to have this guy. And I'd love to have that guy. So yeah.
Yeah, so we're really excited about it. Before we do get going, though, tonight, I'd feel like it'd be pretty unfair if we didn't at least react to this a little bit. We are talking about the passing of Steelers president Dan Rooney. Dan Rooney passed away, I believe, last Friday? Was it last Friday, I believe, that he passed? It might have been Thursday.
So.
It was either Thursday or Friday last week, but it was shocking news. It was very sad news for all of us. Did just want to take a moment to reflect on that a little bit. He passed away at age 84. And, Chris, in many ways, you'll be able to speak to this a little bit better than I will because you're in your 40s, so you've seen a lot more of the NFL than I have. Dan Rooney came from that golden era of football. He really was kind of the last remnant from that era in a lot of ways.
He took over from his dad,
Yep.
Art, and I feel like the biggest compliment that you can give this man in terms of how he ran his football team is that I think he did just as well as his dad did.
Yeah, if not better.
And that's tough to say because that's not always the case.
No.
In any walk of life.
No.
I always felt like Dan Rooney was one of the pillars of this league.
He was in many ways.
I really looked at him as a guy that you felt like he thought on a league sense just as much, if not more, than he did about himself and the team and his team.
Yeah, no, he did. I mean, his influence can be felt. There's the Rooney Rule, the famous Rooney Rule.
Whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it, it's definitely been impactful.
Very impactful. Yeah, I mean, it's something that has effect. I mean, did that start in the 1990s? I believe is when that came along.
Yeah, late 90s, early 2000s, and
but not only that, Dan Rooney was he kind of was the one who spearheaded the salary cap movement in many ways. You could feel Dan Rooney's influence on that. The other thing that I would say about Dan Rooney is, obviously Art Rooney, we owe him the biggest thank you for founding the Steelers, but the truth is that Dan Rooney is the one who hired Chuck Noll. He is the one who directly hired him. He was in charge of football operations at that time. The Steelers won their 6 world championships kind of under the leadership of Dan Rooney. Now, obviously, Art Rooney II kind of was in power, predominantly when they won in 2006 and 2009, but Dan Rooney was still the president. So you can argue that the golden era of the Pittsburgh Steelers started with Dan Rooney in many ways. That was when they won those 4 Super Bowls in the 70s. So in many ways, I mean, obviously he was building, off of what his father already had there, but it kind of all started with Dan Rooney. And I think the biggest thing that stands out to me with Dan Rooney is the way he managed his football team. You never heard about Dan Rooney.
Right.
You know what? He wasn't like Jerry Jones, where after every game, Jerry was over there in the hallway giving his little press conference.
Right.
You didn't hear a lot about Dan Rooney. Now, a lot got done behind the scenes with Dan Rooney, but you never heard about it.
And let me ask you this.
He hired his people, and he trusted them to do their job.
And that gets back to what I wanted to say to you or ask you. One of the words that comes to mind when I think about the Pittsburgh Steelers and how they've run their franchise is patience.
Yes, absolutely.
They don't act. They don't have knee-jerk reactions. And that has led to prolonged successes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as a Steeler fan, I know sometimes it's got to be frustrating because you feel like, man, maybe we're in a rut or this or that, but it's got to be nice to know that you've got a franchise that is built and rooted in just stability.
Yeah, it has. It has. I mean, we've had our years where it's been very frustrating, but for being a Steelers fan, you can't really complain too much, folks.
No,
this
that's
has been
exactly right.
It has, like you said, been a stable franchise for a very long time. We do lead, in NFL history in terms of how many rings we have, and that starts with Dan Rooney in many ways. Well, it starts with Art, but then I think Dan is the one who really took it to the clouds.
Well, as a Redskin fan, I look at every couple of years we find a way to really implode. We go through so many different variations of front office construction and how we're built, and it just seems like we can't get out of our own way. And having 2 brothers that are huge Steeler fans, I tend to pay a lot of attention to those guys, and it's just, it is nothing but sheer jealousy on my part that when I watch that franchise and how they go about their business, and that all comes from the top.
Yeah, It does. It starts with the Rooney family, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens to the Rooneys in Pittsburgh. If you remember correctly, Chris, back in 2009, the Rooneys gave up a ton of power. You remember that really big scandal that went down, I think it was either 2008 or 2009, where the Rooney brothers sold a ton of their shares to outside investors, which significantly decreased the power the Rooneys had in the organization. Why is that important? Well, now Dan Rooney is dead. Ed Bouchette, who writes for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, came out with a very interesting article in February saying that Art Rooney Jr. had been seriously considering selling a lot of his power. Is that going to happen? I don't know, but here's the rule. In order for the Rooneys to retain the most power in the organization, between Art Rooney Sr. and Dan Rooney, they had to control 30%.
Right.
So now that Dan Rooney's gone, is Art Rooney Sr. or Art Rooney Jr., is he going to buy up to 30% to retain control of the organization? I don't know. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out, because if you remember originally before that 2008-2009 situation, you had 80% of the franchise owned directly by the Rooneys. The other 20% was owned by the McGinley family, first cousins to the Rooneys. So it basically was 100% owned by the Rooney family. Now...
So what happened to cause why did they have to sell?
It was rules. It was league rules. I'd have to get like the direct information, but it had something to do with league rules, pretty much. And it also had to do with the fact that the Rooney brothers...
Wait a minute, were they involved in some kind of a...
There was a gambling...
Or something?
Yeah.
So did the NFL make them divest some?
Yeah, pretty much. Now, it never actually got confirmed that, there was dirty dealings going in here, but there were some rumors and suspicions that the Rooneys were doing dirty deals in casinos. So because of that, some of the Rooney brothers sold a lot of their shares. I don't know. But either way, in order for the Rooneys to continue to have primary control of this team, they're going to have up to 30%.
So they had to divest.
Right. And in order for, like I said, they got to have 30%. And now with Dan Rooney dead, it's going to be interesting to see what Art Rooney Jr. does. It's going to be very interesting. But anyway, did just want to take the first maybe 10 minutes of the show to, a little tribute to Dan Rooney. It was a very sad day for Steeler fans, obviously. Because you can't say Steelers without saying Rooney. That's all we've ever known.
That's
You say Steelers, then Rooney's behind it. So got along great with the players. I thought it was really cool to see Ike Taylor being a pallbearer. He and Ike Taylor had a very, very good relationship. All the players. He had a good relationship with every one of his players. Knew him on a first-name basis. And it was cool to see that guy out there in training camp, hunched over, barely able to walk, but going up to every player, shaking that guy's hand, talking to him.
Well, I heard an interesting story, and I'll be brief, but being an airplane buff, this sort of caught my interest. I didn't realize Dan Rooney was an accomplished pilot.
Yeah,
had
he
a
was.
passion for flying, and he was relating a story one day back, I think around 2000. He was flying, and he said the plane had been worked on, and he said either the people had put a faulty alternator in or they had not hooked something up right. But he said the trip to where he was going went fine, but on the way back, all his power. He loses all his power.
Oh, wow.
He went to the backup system, and it was out too. So he can't see his gauges. He can't make contact with the tower because his radio doesn't work.
Holy cow.
So he used his cell phone, and he couldn't get through to the airport, but he finally did. And apparently, I think they said he was flying a Bonanza, so it has retractable landing gear. Well, the landing gear had got stuck in half open, in half in, half out.
Holy cow, man.
So he's in a bind. And he said that the plane has a manual crank, but it was behind his seat. So he said, I could not fly the plane and get back there and crank the wheels the rest of the way down. So anyway, they made arrangements for him to have an emergency landing and at the airport. And there were a couple of options. The biggest the option that most airports use in that situation, from what I can understand, is they foam the runway so that when the plane lands, you get sparks, you have less chance of a fire and explosion. Well, Rooney brought it down and touched down in a grass stripway between runways. And this sort of reporter in the pool said, well, isn't it true that if the runway is foamed, that the pilot has to pay for it? And they said Rooney just looked at him and kind of smiled and said, I can assure you, in that situation, paying for foam never entered my mind. And so I think he would have foamed the runway if he felt like that was the best option.
Yeah,
but anyway, I just kind of thought that was a neat story.
Yeah, and that's actually something that I forget. I was reading that about him the other day. He was an accomplished pilot. Also, forget a lot that he served as U.S. ambassador to Ireland.
Yes,
that's something I totally forget a lot. But anyway, rest in peace, Dan Rooney. Thank you for what you did for not only the NFL but my team in particular. You're going to be missed, and hopefully Art continues to have control of the team. I can't imagine the Steelers without the Rooneys. That's just I don't know. That's weird to think about. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the 2017 NFL Steelskins Show Mock Draft. And I guess we will start today with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, like I said, I'll run through it one more time. The computer simulates, you pick the team you want to draft for, but the computer simulates all the other teams' picks. So we could go a lot of ways with this tonight, so it's going to be fun. All right. Let's get started. By the way, I hope the NFL doesn't sue us. We are going to be using their chime tonight. I don't feel like they have rights.
No.
I don't feel like they own that.
What if we had a wind chime that made that noise?
Yeah, exactly. This isn't coming from YouTube or anything. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have begun. All right, here we go. Computer's running. Now, in order to keep things interesting, we will kind of announce to you what is going on. We don't want to leave you guys out. That's interesting. Okay. Oh, how do you like that, Chris? You like that little?
Yeah, I would be totally good with that.
This is interesting. All right, so it's simulating right now. Like I said, we will go through and announce who everybody got, and then we'll get down to the Steelers. All right, so with the first overall pick in the 2017 NFL Draft, this is not really a shock here. The Cleveland Browns went with Myles Garrett. Pick number 2, the San Francisco 49ers went with Mitch Trubisky. Jonathan Allen went number 3 overall. Leonard Fournette went to the Jaguars. That's interesting. Malik Hooker went to the Titans. Deshaun Watson went to the Jets. Very interesting there. Solomon Thomas went to the L.A. Chargers. L.A. Chargers, dude, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Mike Williams went 8th overall to the Carolina Panthers. That's interesting. Cam Robinson, offensive tackle, went to the Bengals. Reuben Foster, Chris, ya boy, went 10th overall to the Buffalo Bills. Marshawn Lattimore went 11th overall to the Saints. Deshaun Kaiser went to the Browns. John Ross went to the Cardinals. Dalvin Cook went to the Eagles. Derek Barnett went to the Indianapolis Colts. Corey Davis, the Ravens. Hassan Reddick, Redskins. Quincy Wilson, Titans. David Njoku, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ryan, I don't even know how you say that guy's name. Is it Ramczyk? The offensive tackle?
Oh, yeah, Ramczyk.
Taco Charlton to the Lions. Gerard Davis to the Dolphins. Garrett Bowles to the Giants. Marlon Humphrey to the Oakland Raiders. Forrest Lamp to the Texans. O.J. Howard to the Seahawks. Jerron Conley. Is that how you say his name? Jerron?
I don't know.
I don't know. Me either. Oh, no. Kevin King went number 28 to the Cowboys.
Jamal Adams
How did you?
went 29?
Okay, yeah, we're already seeing some computer failure here. Jamal Adams went 29. Wow. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Pittsburgh Steelers are now on the clock. All right, so let's see who we got here. Best available on the board. All right, the pick is in. All right, with the 30th pick overall in the 2017 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Budda Baker, safety out of Washington.
Nice.
Welcome to the NFL Draft.
All the picks in the second, third, fourth.
No, I figured I'd just do that for the first round.
Do you want to kind of explain while the computer's running? You want to kind of give your take on
my take on Budda Baker. All right, so here we go. We're moving to the second round. The computer's going to simulate. My reasoning behind taking Budda Baker, he always was on my board to begin with in terms of my favorite safeties in this draft. But I've just fallen in love with him the more tape that I watch. You're looking at a guy who, what immediately jumps off the page to me about Budda Baker is he is excellent against the run. The way this guy hunts down running backs really impresses me. He's a prolific tackler. Tackles like a Pittsburgh Steeler. That's why I like him. Very good in pass protection as well. And I think, a lot of people are going to say, well, why'd you go safety in the first round? I really think if we had a very diverse safety, we could put him playing primary dime back right off the bat, and that would really transform our defense. And I think Budda Baker is a guy who could do that. The other reason why you go Budda Baker, he's not going to be available in round 2. That's a guy you got to pick up quick.
I think so too.
So,
totally agree.
All right, so we are now at pick number 30 in the second round. Steelers are on the clock. Let's see. I don't know, man. Let's see. Carl Lawson is off the board. He went to the Cowboys. Round 2. That's impressive. Yeah. Carl Lawson's stock has been moving up over the last couple of days.
That's
Josh Jones already went.
A tough board.
That's a very tough board. Oh man, that's tempting. I mean, we already got a safety, but I'm looking at Desmond King, trying not to cry. All right, the pick is in. All right, the Steelers in the second round with pick number 30, Derek Rivers, outside linebacker out of Youngstown State.
Nice.
Here we'll go ahead and move. We'll go ahead and move to the third round. Derek Rivers. Yeah, so the thing that I'm beginning to notice as I run these mock drafts a lot more, a lot of these top edge rushers are going very quickly in the first and second round. So obviously we all know that the Steelers need an edge rusher. I think if we're going to get a quality one, we probably need to go ahead and do it at round 2. I still am of the mind that we don't need to get an edge rusher in the first round. I think we can hold off on that. But Derek Rivers, it does not bother me. I've said this before. It does not bother me at all that he comes from Youngstown State. When you watch this guy's tape, when you look at his stats, the guy's a total beast. I think he had like 15 sacks 2 years ago. I think he had 10 this past year. He's 6'4". He's big. He sets the edge well. And I think he's a guy who genuinely could one day, take James Harrison's place. So I like the old boy. All right, we are now in the third round. Steelers are on the clock. Now, remember, in the third round, ladies and gentlemen, the Steelers get 2 picks this year. We have a third-round compensatory pick. Thank you, NFL. All right. How in the world is Obi Melifonwu still on the board in round 3? That's amazing.
Because he's not a physical player, that's why.
Oh, you're not a Melifonwu fan? Ooh. He doesn't tackle well. I will give you that. Man, part of me wishes I really would have gone a cornerback in the first round now. All right. I do believe that the pick is in. All right, so in the third round of the 2017 NFL Draft, with their first pick in the third round, I have the Steelers selecting cornerback Jalen Merrick.
Hi, hello, and welcome.
That's annoying. Out of the University of Minnesota. Merrick is a guy who is very attractive. He's very, very physical. He is very long. Merrick would not in any way, shape, or form have been my first pick. But to get him in the third round, I think is very, very big. He's a guy who I think can play press man coverage. Like I said, I like his speed. I like how tough he is. He's not afraid to get right up in receiver's face and run with them. Tackling is something that leaves a little bit to be desired at times about Merrick. That's something he definitely has to work on. But I think to pick him up in the third round is indeed a bargain. Okay, so we are now at our second pick here in the third round. Let's survey the board a little bit. Man, Chris, I'm already not happy with my draft.
Dude, isn't that funny how it happens?
It's man, I'm already here I'm in the third round and I'm already just wishing I would have done things differently.
But see, that's the beauty of this thing. Is you got to be careful about the board.
Yeah, you really do. Okay, pick is in.
You sound really unhappy.
Yeah, I'm really wishing I would have gone a press man, more physical corner with my first overall pick. But then again, I'm not unhappy about Budda Baker at all. That I can't be unhappy about that. He's going to affect the football field right off the bat.
Exactly.
But again, I'm already just like, ugh. I could have had so many others. All right, pick is in. All right, with their third round compensatory pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Jordan Leggett, tight end, out of Clemson. We'll go ahead and move to the fourth round. Why Jordan Leggett? Well, number one, I do think the Steelers could use another receiving threat. Also, Ladarius Green is a guy who I'm very excited about, but with his concussion history, I don't know. You just don't know how reliable this guy is. Jordan Leggett, you and I have talked about the caveats to him before. Keeping his head in the game is something at times that you worry about. Drop some easy ones at times, but gosh, when this guy's on point, he's a great route runner. He can catch some incredible footballs at times.
And the beauty of Jordan Leggett is I thought he got better and better and better.
Oh, he did.
When he kind of came on the scene there a couple of years ago, he would make splash plays and then drop the easy ones. You just about to pull your hair out. Dabo Sweeney would get frustrated with it. But this year, the man, for the most part, was just clutch. His focus is there. It was cool to watch him grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think he got a lot better as the years went on. So, and apparently, according to Aditi, I can't say your last name. You know who I'm talking about.
Or whatever.
It's something like that. Which, by the way, her track record is not very good right now. She's kind of somewhat of a villain right now. She's fake news, as many people are calling her right now. But apparently, she had a report the other week that said Ben Roethlisberger directly went to the front office and said, "I want a tight end. I'd like a new tight end." So, if that's true, Ben, here you go. Here's Jordan Leggett. Okay, we are on to round 4. Steelers are on the clock. Let's look around and see who we got. Oh, that's interesting. Josh Dobbs is already off the board. Okay. Wow, I honestly think, what's his name out of Pitt? Running back out of Pittsburgh? He's gone already.
Wow.
Oh, James Conner, that's his name. Yeah, he's gone. He is off the board. Oh, that's not cool. Okay. Let's go over here. Okay. The pick is in. All right, with their 4th round pick, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers selecting Ryan Switzer, wide receiver out of North Carolina.
Nice.
Hard to not like Switzer. You watch this guy on tape, and gosh, that's really annoying. You watch this guy on tape. He's a very good route runner. Catching at times, he can be kind of shady on his catching every now and then, but he's a really good receiver. You don't have to watch him long to figure that out. And really what it comes down to with the Steelers in terms of drafting a receiver, if we get Martavis Bryant back before the draft, the need for a receiver drastically goes down. But with how the NFL are treating Bryant right now, it kind of looks like that he's not going to be back before the draft. Which, by the way, I just totally noticed your phone background. Check it out. Me too. Star Wars Episode 8 poster got revealed. It's my phone background.
It's my phone background.
Don't judge me. Okay, yeah, so Ryan Switzer. Like I said, if we get Martavis Bryant back, I don't see the need for a wide receiver that badly. But
but I think Switzer's got some wiggle to him.
Oh, man. He does. He does.
He's solid.
No, he's a very solid receiver. And to pick him up in the 4th round, I think is a huge bargain. So I'm not really unhappy with that at all. But believe me, if I could redo this draft, I'd do it in a heartbeat. I'm really regretting a lot right now, man. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Oh man.
Okay, we are now in round 5, ladies and gentlemen. Ryan Glasgow. Malachi Dupree, I like him. Tell you what, Michael Roberts out of Toledo, the Texans just took him in round 5. He's a guy who's really big. I think a lot of people expect him to be a blocking tight end, but man, he's actually got some really creepy catching ability for a guy as big as he is.
I think the best name of the draft so far, Corn Elder.
Corn. Shout out Corn.
Wow.
Okay,
Wow.
so the Pittsburgh Steelers are now on the clock, round 5. Here we go. All right, I do believe the pick is in. All right, with their 5th round pick, the Steelers select running back Donald Pumphrey out of San Diego State. Donald Pumphrey has been on my board from the start. He's a guy who comes from San Diego State, not a very big school, but this guy broke all kinds of FBS records. All kinds of records. He's small and stocky, different built than Le'Veon Bell, which I think it's going to be good to get that change of pace in there. But he's one of those guys who he comes from a small school. I could really care less about that. I don't know. I like him a lot.
San Diego State's, that's...
Oh, they're a
they
decent
play some
school.
Big-time football. I mean, that's where Marshall Faulk came from.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But this guy has broke all kinds of records in